This is One Sentence News, a daily podcast featuring 3 news stories with a sentence-long summary and 1 sentence of context apiece. I'm Colin Wright. This is a sponsored message. I've been using Anchor as my podcast host for a while now, and it's been a pleasure to use. Anchor offers benefits that most other hosts do not. It's free to use, but it also has a collection of tools that allow you to create a podcast completely within the Anchor website or smartphone app. They distribute your show to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other distribution channels without any additional effort on your part, and you can make money from your podcast without any minimum audience size. So you can use it as a more traditional podcast host like I do, but it's also got everything you need to start a podcast from scratch. If you're keen to give it a shot, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It's Thursday, January 12th, 2023. Let's talk about the news. From Reuters, New York Republicans say George Santos lied and should resign from Congress. Senior-level New York Republicans called on fellow New York Republican and now House Representative George Santos to resign due to his many lies about his life and business dealings during his campaign. It's hard to know where to start with Santos's fabrications, but among others, he is falsely claimed to be Jewish, to have descended from Holocaust survivors, and to have had a grandmother who was killed by the Nazis. He falsely said that his mother died on 9/11. He lied about which high school he went to, about graduating from college, about working for Goldman Sachs and Citigroup, about founding an animal charity, about at least one of his marriages, and falsely claimed that he had friends who died in the Pulse nightclub shooting in 2016. He's also made claims about a multi-million-dollar fortune he seems to have acquired essentially overnight, which has raised national security flags and is being investigated. And he's also, for separate issues, being investigated for fraud by Brazilian authorities. Many Republicans, now that the House is set up and getting down to business with their party running things, are keen to see him out of the picture, replaced with someone less likely to attract unwanted, scandal-related attention, and who is less likely to be under the thumb of whichever outside party maybe funded his ascension to higher office. From the New York Times, Coinbase lays off another 20% of its employees. Following a cost-cutting effort last June that left 20% of the company's employees laid off, crypto trading platform Coinbase has fired another fifth of its employees, which this time around is about 950 people. These waves of layoffs have been attributed to several things, but key among them is the teetering of the crypto world following the scandal-ridden collapse of FTX and similar firms, and the large-scale devaluation of tech companies in the lead-up to what might be a year-plus period of heightened inflation, interest rates, and recessionary fears and impacts. Investment bank Goldman Sachs has also started laying off a planned 3,200 or so employees this week, reflecting another facet of Coinbase's woes, namely that many companies took on too many new hires during the pandemic and are now scrambling to whittle down to a more sustainable number. And from the Associated Press, new guidance says to use drugs and surgery early for obesity in kids. New health guidelines from the American Academy of Pediatrics recommend practitioners consider the use of weight loss drugs for children ages 12 and older, and surgery for those 13 and older, in addition to changes in behavior and lifestyle for patients who are considered to be medically obese. This new guidance is partly the consequence of recent data showing that many people who are obese as children go on to suffer an array of health conditions when they're older, and partly because of the recent availability of drugs that have been remarkably effective at helping people not just lose weight, but also shrug off some of the secondary health consequences of obesity. This guidance is meant to replace an earlier wait-and-see approach that has been shown to often lead to future health problems for patients, and this guidance has already been embraced by some healthcare professionals who see it as a necessary reflection of our social and healthcare context and a heartening move away from blaming people for being obese, instead treating it more like asthma or other conditions over which people have little or no control and which emerge primarily from biological factors, not personal choices. While others have criticized it as a gift for pharmaceutical companies that will encourage doctors to medicate children as a default, rather than focusing on encouraging healthy lifestyle choices. If you're finding some value in One Sentence News, consider leaving a quick review wherever you get your podcasts and/or sharing the show with a friend. You can find out more about this show or subscribe to the email version at onesentencenews.com. And you can support this and other related projects, like the Let's Know Things and Brain Lenses podcasts, at understandery.com.